played a game of football that made headlines round the world. In Germany,
penalty drama hits 10 brave Englishmen.
in France,
we will remember this.
England carries off the most beautiful of defeats.
in Italy,
This is what football should be. Cinema without a script. A melodrama where the libretto and the finale are written by the singers directly on the stage with their voices and their imagination.
as for the British press, they seemed stunned, at least on the morning after, seeking comfort in the old stock platitudes.
A nation of good losers.
The bravest team in the world.
You might have thought it was Scotland they were talking about. Brave hearts wasn't actually used by the headline writers, but they came pretty close.
England Lions go down fighting.
Note that these were not sports page headlines, but front page leads. This is a relatively recent departure for our broadsheets, leading on sports reports ahead of politics, and some would see it as further evidence of the dumbing down of our so-called quality press. When England won the World Cup in 1966, it was my first Saturday at the Observer, and I remember having enormous difficulty persuading the backbench to carry even a mention of the victory, let alone a story and picture on page 1. Not so today. But if, on that first morning, the papers had mostly felt obliged to echo the show of national unity on the pitch, a more astringent note soon crept in as the search for scapegoats began. There was no shortage of candidates, some of them a bit far-fetched. Giles Smith joked in the Telegraph.
This was not a night for blame. But personally, I blame Kevin Keegan.
Keegan's false predictions have become legendary during this World Cup. Not only did he forecast that England would beat Romania, just as our opponents were about to score their winning goal, but as Batty ran up to take the crucial penalty against Argentina, he was asked by commentator Brian Moore.
Do you back him to score? Quickly, yes or no?
Yes, said Keegan.
He missed it, of course, which is why this week's headlines had such a familiar feel. Remember Stuart Pearce at Italian 90?
Carout!
Then there was Gareth Southgate at Euro 96.
Heartbroken.
Penalties, eh? Perhaps it's time we started to practice them. Southgate was on hand to comfort Batty this time.
Hold your head up high. No shame for Batty over miss.
There were no accusing fingers pointing in his direction, only consoling arms.
If Batty wasn't to blame, who was? England's gutted coach thought he knew.
Hoddle puts the blame on the referee.
A popular choice, this, with several papers.
Referee's red card ruined best game of the tournament.
Anatole Kaletsky, who usually writes a learned economics column for the Times, used the leader page to deliver this thundering verdict.
England's defeat on Tuesday was not the fault of Beckham, Batty or Hoddle, or any of the other players. It was the fault of an apparently stupid and vain referee.
A convenient analysis, this, in many ways, for it means we don't have to blame ourselves for the defeat. But we love blaming ourselves. It's one of our favourite national pastimes, so that won't do. Fortunately, the perfect scapegoat was on hand.
Moment of lunacy that cost Cup hopes.
A moment of madness from David Beckham shattered England's World Cup dream last night.
10 heroic lions. 1 stupid boy.
In the Daily Express, Peter Obor went even further.
Spoilt brat Beckham's a real crass act.
He has committed an act of treachery aimed at the heart of the English nation. In any other profession, David Beckham would have been sacked. In some, like flying, dereliction of duty means instant death.
Which shows that Des Kelly's defence of Beckham in the Mirror was hardly over the top.
A very public execution.
The slavering mob demands a scapegoat. They want blood. The country had gone stark raving mad.
The Telegraph was also forgiving. Well, sort of, anyway.
This Gautier saronged, posh-spiced, cooled Britannia, look at me, what a lad, loads of money, sex and shopping, fame-schooled, daytime TV, overquaffed twerp, did not, of course, mean any harm.
So that's all right, then. Somebody here in Canary Wharf seems just a teeny bit jealous, perhaps. Richard Williams made a good point in The Guardian.
In Thatcherised and Murdochized Britain, where sport and celebrity and money and the media are locked together in a dervish dance, that sense of proportion appears to have been suspended.
Let's remember, it was the tabloids that clamoured for Beckham's inclusion in the first place. Another case of building up a personality only to knock him down again. as Stan Hay explained in The Independent.
In the absence of Paul Gascoigne, there was a vacancy both in the English team's midfield and in the front pages of the papers. Beckham was the obvious candidate.
So what was Beckham's punishment to be? The Daily Mirror feared the worst. But Posh Spice was standing by her man. The loving couple was spotted in New York.
Posh Cuddles' fallen idol.
Victoria, 24, whispered in Beckham's ear, squeezed his hand and lovingly patted his bottom.
The golden boy was clearly fated by a full-page ad from one of his sponsors, Adidas, that appeared before the match.
After tonight, England v Argentina will be remembered for what a player did with his feet.
It certainly will, but not in the way they intended their boots to be used. All that remained for our loyal fans was to file into cafes and bars to support Holland, the team England should have played in yesterday's quarter-final. Now here was a match that wasn't weighed down by all that historical baggage. Remember 1966?
England win after Argentine walk-off.
Then there was 1986.
Diego the cheat!
And then, of course, 16 years ago, there was the Falklands War, which engendered some of the most infamous headlines of the 80s.
Stick it up, you junta.
Gotcha!
Hence the echo of the sinking of the Belgrano in Wednesday's headline in the Star.
Oucha!
Which is roughly, I suppose, what the Queen was trying to say as she watched the match at Holyrood Palace.
One is not amused.
What the Queen said when England goal was disallowed.
But at least today's papers, and who knows, even the Queen, had something to celebrate. Not only a last-minute defeat for Argentina.
Gotcha!
Now we can smile as Bergie sinks the cheating Argies.
But the unexpected bonus of defeat for Germany.
More good news. The Germans are out too.
Those results duly noted, today's papers had only one man on their mind.
At Home with Michael Owen.
Michael Owen, his life, his love, and that goal.
So what are we to make of this week's extraordinary events in France? As the Daily Mirror said.
Sport tells the world a lot about a nation.
So what does it all say about us? According to Matthew Engel in The Guardian.
A period of mass hysteria, English yet un-English, is at an end. While it lasted, it rivaled Diana mania for emotional fascism.
As for David Lacey in the same paper.
England perfect the art of dressing up failures as quasi-victories.
But the Times summed up my own feelings best. Not only about the football, but about the cricket, the tennis, the rugby.
Heroic in defeat. But can we have a win next time, please?
But would the papers enjoy it as much? Good night.
Richard Branson delivers the Money programme's first ever annual lecture here on BBC Two next.